Welcome to Beyond the Pod, presented by SodaStick.com.
Brunette, he moves, Brunette back in, he scores! Minnesota has upset the Colorado Avalanche! Andrew Brunette, the game-winning goal!
Here are your hosts, the second greatest scorer in Gopher hockey history, Pat Micheletti, and the second greatest hockey analyst on this podcast, Brandon Mileski.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Beyond the Pod. As always, it's brought to you by SodaStick.com. I'm Brandon Mileski, Pat Micheletti with me. Hi, Pat. It's been a little bit of a while. We're off because of the holidays, and good to see you back.
Happy New Year. It has been a while. It's good to see you too, Brandon.
Good to see you as well, and we have lots to get to, but first we want to chat with the head coach of the St. Cloud State men's hockey team, Brett Larson, who joins us now. Brett, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Big series against the Gophers, home and home this weekend. Let's just talk about your season overall. 14-4, top 5 team in the country. I have to imagine you're pretty pleased with what's happened up until this point.
Yeah, first off, Happy New Year, guys. Good to see you,
too.
and good to be back on with you guys. I always love it. So, yeah, obviously, you look back at the first half of the year, and I told the boys we certainly got a lot to be proud of. I think we played a lot of good, consistent hockey. I really liked how we played as a team. We were able to roll 4 lines. We've got tough decisions every night about who to put in and who to keep out. We got some good players that aren't in the lineup at times. So I've liked the group a lot. Now, as we all know, the race is to see who can keep getting better. College hockey is about the second half of the year. It's good for us to look back and be proud of the start. But obviously now the challenge gets bigger every weekend.
Brett, I recall a text conversation you and I had. I think I want to call it late August, early September. There was a ranking that came out, and I'm scrolling down that ranking.
Yeah, I remember.
I'm looking for St. Cloud, and I get to 10, not 10. Okay, go to 15, not 15, and 20, not there. I'm like, well, there's got to be an error here, but it wasn't. You guys were not ranked by, I don't even need to name the poll. It doesn't matter because polls don't matter. But it was like, what's going on here? They, obviously they probably looked at your team and said, well, they lost Perbix and Henches and Brodzinski and Rennick and but did that motivate you a little bit more? I think it did via our text.
Oh yeah,
a little exchange there, but
that did.
It was shocking.
I'd like to tell you I'm that coach that never looks at that kind of stuff,
right.
But every once in a while you take a peek and you tell you to bring it up. So, yeah, for sure. Those are always motivators. And obviously the first thing we thought of as a staff was the year we made it to the Frozen Four in the national championship game. It was the same way.
Right.
We were unranked going into the season, and our guys made note of that immediately. And I think not just me, but it lit a fire in our room. Of course, they printed that off and put it up. And there was a lot of belief throughout the summer in this group from the staff to the team. And I think that early season poll galvanized the group even a little bit more. And I got to say, probably fired up the coaches a bit too.
You know, what really has impressed me about, your team, because listen, going into it, I looked at the roster and, I obviously didn't know a lot of the guys that were transferred in and, the new guys and such, and looking at what you lost. I knew the guys that you had coming back solid, but was there going to be enough? Was there going to be enough? And I tell you what, you brought in, the guys that fit how you want to do things and fill those holes. And it's been more than impressive thus far.
Yeah, the transfers have been a huge piece for us from Bassey in the net to Anhorn, who I think is one of the leading scoring defensemen in the country right now, to Grant Cruikshank, who has been arguably one of our top forwards. I mean, he's stepped into a huge role for us, power play, penalty kill big minutes, can play him against other teams' top lines. And not only that, boy, does he bring some leadership
Yep.
To this team and character to this team that I think really has complemented our leadership group that was here. He's just he doesn't wear a letter, but he supports Spence. He supports that leadership group. He does things the right way every day. And he's been a big piece for us.
How do you know, like a guy like that, who you find in the transfer portal, was that Minnesota the year before? How do you know like that guy is going to be a fit? Like obviously you can watch like his physical skills on the ice, but the leadership stuff, the intangibles,
Yep.
like how do you know what you're getting when you're bringing a guy like that in?
Well, that one we were pretty lucky on because I don't want to say lucky, but the year before in the transfer portal when he left Colorado College with the coaching change, it came down to us in Minnesota, and we thought we had him, and it was a battle right to the end, and he picked Minnesota, so we got to know him really well. And the other thing is RJ Anger, our assistant coach, coached him at Colorado College.
Okay.
So we had some behind the scenes stuff with RJ who just, I don't know if he believed in the kid more. And from us getting to know him through the process the year before, I can tell you this, when he picked Minnesota and committed, I don't know if I've ever gotten this before, but I got a handwritten letter from him a week later, thanking him for everything we'd done in the recruiting process and how tough the decision was for him. Not an email, not a text, a handwritten letter that he took the time to write. And the minute he went on the portal the next year, literally the minute, I was in my car. We met for lunch down in Minneapolis, and we knew we wanted him.
Well, I tell you what, I don't have to tell you. He's your your player, but the minute you meet him, the minute you talk to him, you see maturity. You see, just a fabulous kid, and I'm really happy to see him thrive the way he is, in your program.
I agree, Pat. And the other thing I'll give him is he's a humble kid. I mean, you look at it, he comes from unbelievable bloodlines and the life that he's lived and everything that he's done. There's a humbleness to him. That's why he really fits here. We're a blue collar team. The guys care about each other. There's not a lot of big egos in the room. The guys fight for each other and it's a family feel. And he fits into that really well.
You mentioned the polls earlier. I want to talk to you about pairwise rankings. Are you the kind of coach that you're looking at them every week from the first week of the year? Is it now that the new year is turned over? Can you look at them? Are you going to wait till March to look at them? What's kind of your philosophy on paying attention to those?
It sounds so cliche, but the big thing is at this level, you just got to go weekend to weekend, right? Now, Do I understand the importance of these games this weekend against Minnesota in the pairwise? Yeah, I do. You look at where our league's at a little bit this year, how important the pairwise is against Minnesota. Now, the good thing is, I don't need an extra motivator against Minnesota. Let's face it. Like, there are big games and there are big games. And these are the games you grew up wanting to play in, especially as a Minnesota kid. Every weekend's important. The pairwise is important, but this one is a huge rivalry game that, let's face it, these are things you look back in your life and remember it playing in games like this. So there's not a lot of extra motivation needed on a weekend like this.
Let's talk about your league a little bit. You get some teams that are moving up a little bit, and some teams that are typically at the top are, trying to find their way. Let's call it in UMD and North Dakota. Very good teams, but just haven't found the wins that that we're used to seeing. Right? How do you assess your league this far?
Well, obviously Denver's the real deal. They're I believe where they should be. They're one of the top teams in the country. They're loaded. We had a great series with them out in Denver this year early. And it's funny you mentioned Duluth and North Dakota because there's no doubt in my mind that they're going to be better in the second half. They both have always trended that way.
Always.
They both have had turnover. I'm joking with somebody the other day. Of course, we played Duluth 4 times in the second half. Would have been nice to get them a couple early. Because those teams are going to make big pushes and big runs in the second half. They're going to be they're bringing the young guys into their culture. Those programs have been too good. This league will tighten up, I believe, and it'll be a major battle right down the stretch.
Brett, I always find this part of the college hockey season to be a little weird because you have the long Christmas break. Kids are off of school. So you go a long time without playing games, and then you have kids that are missing because they're in the World Juniors. You had the 20 days off, and I know you played the exhibition game versus Manitoba. Like, you mentioned how big this series is. Like, what's kind of your feeling about your team after having all that going on leading up into the series.
Well, it's interesting. The thing is, I found anyways, and I feel it with our team right now, is there's a freshness. There's an excitement about playing. The guys can't wait to play. I think the best thing about the holiday break is there's a hunger when these guys come back. They miss it. It's funny because there is a lot of pressure and stress in college hockey for these players. You know, they've got a lot going on. They've got big dreams. They've also got school. They've got all that stuff going on. And to be honest, I think a lot of them look forward to that Christmas break a little bit at the beginning. They get home for 3 days usually, and then you hear from guys they want to get back. They get a little bit of downtime. They get to decompress, but there's a freshness and a hunger, and I'm sure Minnesota's feeling it too. And that's why I think this is going to be a very intense, very fast series where there's two fresh teams out there that are really going to be getting after it.
You know, one thing that's always impressed me about your team, and listen, we see it all throughout college hockey, guys wanting to get to that next level today, not go with the process or, thinking, whatever, right. That they're going to get there. In doing your games in the past years, and getting to know some of your guys, I've never seen guys that are more focused about the now. So my question is, what do you tell them, as a coach to player about the process and, the most important thing being where you are right now?
Yeah. Well, now we've got just the best example you could bring up right in front of us is Nick Perbix playing against the Wild last night. And Jimmy Schultz, I'll go back to Jimmy Schultz.
Right.
So there's a couple different things, but Nick Perbix had the exact same contract offer after his junior year that he ended up with taking after his senior year. But he sat across from me and I said, Nick, what do you think? And he said two things. He goes, I need to get mentally and physically stronger to play pro hockey. I know I need to be ready to make an impact when I get there, and I'm not there yet. I need another year. And number two, I love the guys in the room. I'm not ready to leave these guys yet. Jimmy Schultz, 4 years before that, told me the exact same thing when he turned down all those offers after his junior year and decided to stay. So I think two things. I think there is a real family feel here where guys care about each other and they want to get it done. They want to do something here that we've never done before. They want to do something special. And I feel like they feel they're close. Mm-hmm. They're close to being able to do that, but they're also close as a group. And I do also think that example after example has shown kids now that the patient route is usually the best one. You've got a short window and make an impact in pro hockey. Leaving before you're really ready is rarely the right choice. And I think guys have just seen some really good players here that have gone through that process the right way, and they stay usually because they love it here and they care, and they know it's going to help them to have that extra year. So I think for Purby, had he left a year before, I'm not sure things would be working out the same. Maybe they would, but he went into this year being extremely confident after his 4 years here, and he knew he had a chance to make it. So those examples are always great for our guys.
Another guy that might have a chance to play in the National Hockey League, Jack Pert, drafted by the Minnesota Wild. How much of the World Juniors have you watched, and how do you feel like he played representing the United States?
Quite a bit. Obviously, they played him pretty big minutes, over 18 minutes a game for a defenseman. It's interesting how, he's a power play guy first for us here. It's a big part of it, and penalty kill secondary. And up there, that D-corps was loaded with offensive talent, and they had him the first guy over the boards in the penalty kill and not on the power play at all. So, we're only hoping that helps him grow as a player, and now he'll be better in the penalty kill here when he gets back. But I thought with that D-corps they had and the talent level, I thought he settled into kind of a complementary role where he moved the puck, played solid, played steady, didn't overextend himself, kind of let the other guys do that a little bit. But it was clear that they trusted him because they had him out there in pretty big minutes.
Do you expect him in the lineup this weekend?
Well, we're going to make sure. I'd like to have him in the lineup this weekend. We'll see. I want to see what his energy level's like when he gets back. The nice thing is he should get back tomorrow. Hopefully he can get a good night of sleep, get some rest, see how he's feeling Saturday morning. We'll probably make that decision Saturday morning, depending on how he's feeling.
I could probably just ask Pat this question because he's seen the Gophers a lot, but what makes the Gophers challenging?
That's funny you say that. Well, one of my favorite players that I coach him in the Olympics is Nyes, and he's a third leading scorer. You got two guys ahead of. It's amazing to me the level of talent on that team right now. There's no doubt about it. I mean, boy, their D core is as mobile and as smart and hard to forecheck as I've seen. Their weapons up front are endless. I would argue that they may be one of the most talented teams as far as talent goes that I've seen in college hockey in a while. So for us, our game plan is going to be critical. We've got to make those guys defend. We've got to be able to hang on to pucks in their end, extend ozone shifts, make them defend. Hopefully, make those very talented players play in the end that they don't want to play in as much because they're pretty darn good when they're going the other way. So I'm really impressed with their team. They're very dangerous.
I don't mean to sound like a boomer here, Brett, but this might be a little bit of a back in my day comment. But I still remember as a child growing up watching college hockey, and you knew every Friday night and Saturday night the Gophers or anyone else within the state was going to be playing at those set times. And
yep.
I look at this weekend and I see Saturday and Sunday at 3:00 going up against the National Football League. And to me, that's kind of disappointing, right? I think this is a series that should be spotlighted on Friday and Saturday night. So what kind of goes into the thought process behind when we're scheduling the dates and the times of these games?
Yeah, I can't remember this exact reason. And I wish I've been asked this question a couple times. I'd have to go back, and we're talking to Bob about the scheduling and whatnot, but there was a pretty significant reason it had to be pushed back weekend. I think TV has to do with the times. The dates, there was something, I can't remember exactly what it was, why it had to get pushed back to Saturday, Sunday. I agree with you on that for sure. But I can tell you this, our players or their players don't care. It's a big series.
Yeah.
They both know it. They don't care what time. They don't care what day. These are the games that you want to play in. These are games that you want to be a part of as a hockey player. And as much as you and I would love to see it on a Friday, Saturday night, I don't think the players care. They just can't wait to play the games.
Win or lose, what do you take away from a series like this, seeing, Minnesota 2 in the country, you guys I think are 3 or 4? Is there anything, what do you gain, or from a series like this weekend?
Well, how, Pat, it always depends how you win or lose sometimes, right? We lost a game in overtime up here last year where I thought we played a really good game. It was, I don't even want to get into that whole thing in the end, but let's not. That's bygones. It was a great hockey game, right?
Yep.
We ended up losing that hockey game, and even if it wasn't for the controversy at the end, whatnot, they played a great game too. That was a great hockey game with two really good teams. And if you lose like that, well, you kind of walk away saying, hey, we're moving in the right direction. I like our team right now. This is what we may have to keep working on, tweak a little bit. Obviously, if you go out and don't play well, now you've got some other issues that you got to figure out. And the good thing is every weekend's a test. How do we step up to this test this weekend? How do we handle it? How do we play? There is a little bit feeling of a little bit bigger pressure in these weekends, right? Because it is a big rivalry weekend. Let's face it, most of that comes down to pride. You want to win these games and you want to win them bad. So you put that pressure on yourself. So it's another test of how do you handle that? How do you handle the bright lights, the big series? And I can go back to a few years where I believe that even if you don't do well in those weekends, if you handle it the right way, it can help you later when the lights are bright again in a big series, because you've been through it once. You've gone through those feelings once, and now you can kind of reflect on that, what you would have done different. So, what we take out of it, Pat, will really depend on how the weekend goes. But I do know this. I do know that both teams are going to be really excited to play, because those two games were great hockey games last year.
No, they were. Yep.
Brett, we always love chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time today, and good luck this weekend versus Minnesota at your place and at their place.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. Should be a fun weekend.
We'll see you Sunday.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Brett Larson, head coach of the St. Cloud State men's hockey team. Before I chat with Pat, I want to talk to our listeners and viewers about sodastick.com. Go to sodastick.com, get your original Minnesota sports-inspired goods. If you haven't seen the stuff yet, you got to check it out. All their apparel screen printed here in Minnesota on super soft, super comfy shirts. You will love it, and we're going to hook you up with 15% off your next order. So use the code KFAN for 15% off. That is sodastick.com, original Minnesota sports-inspired goods. Use the code KFAN for 15% off your next order. Quickly, before we move on, do you want to give a little preview? Go for St. Cloud State. What do you expect to happen this weekend, Pat?
Oh, I think it's going to be really fast. St. Cloud is a very, very fast team. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They are so well coached, and you know what? They're getting great goaltending, and it will be interesting. Minnesota has 4 guys coming back from the junior team. Snuggerud, Cooley, uh, Middlestead, and Chesley.
Yep.
And so it'll be interesting to see how they, if they're going to be playing or not. Regardless, I think it's going to be just a terrific series.
So I have not really been able to watch the World Juniors other than highlights and stuff I've seen on social media and on the internet because I don't have NHL Network. But I want to ask you specifically about Connor Bedard, kid's 17 years old.
Yeah.
Surefire #1 pick in the draft. What are your thoughts on what kind of player this guy can eventually be in the National Hockey League?
Well, I think he's going to be really, really good. I mean, he's not big at all. I mean, he's Johnny Gaudreau size. But I tell you, he is so intelligent. He gets to the right spots, and he doesn't get tied up. And you can't teach that. You can't. I mean, you try to teach it. You try to say, stay away from certain area. He gets to the right spots, and he has that uncanny ability to find the net and find the player. And he was. I mean, I think he's got 9 goals, or I don't know if he scored another one, cheap one later on. I don't know, but he got his 9th of the tournament last night, which ties a record. But he's really, really fun to watch.
He's
really
playing older kids. He's 17.
Yeah, I know. It's ridiculous. And he looks all of that too. I mean, I look at him, I'm like, are you kidding me? But he just has that, that sense, Brandon, where you're just out playing with your buddies and you make a play and you try to make plays. He's fearless when it comes to that. And you can't teach that. And that's why he is so good. And that's why he's, will be in that class of superstars that we see in the NHL now.
So I had someone tweet me this question, and I want to know your response because I didn't know how to answer it, frankly.
Okay.
I had someone ask me, would you trade Kirill Kaprizov straight up for the #1 overall pick to get Bedard? And, and my first thought is, well, I know Kaprizov's a known quality. I have a known superstar here that I would love to have as the leader of my franchise for the next decade. So obviously there's more risk in Bedard, but he also has the chance here, Pat, to be like a once in a generation player, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the progression he's made, constantly playing against older kids and being an absolute superstar at his level. I mean, we're talking at where he's at right now, like Wayne Gretzky type progression. Doesn't mean he's going to get there. That's not a sure thing. But I found that question very interesting because I'm like, I don't know how to answer that. And given I know what I have in Kirill Kaprizov, it's amazing that I'm even contemplating that.
I'm not contemplating it because, and this is my own personal opinion, I love Kaprizov, and I wouldn't trade Kaprizov for McKinnon. The only person I trade him for right now is McDavid, and that's it. I just think this.
What about Makar?
He's a defenseman, so okay, let's bring him into the mix. You know what? As much as I love Makar, as much as I love him, I still would go with Kaprizov because I just think he changes. He really, really. I mean, he can do so many things, and he's durable, and I just think the sky's the limit for him going forward.
Yeah. I'm a massive Kirill Kaprizov fan as well, and I still wonder if you could ever find a center, that could think the same way him and Zuccarello do. And I am fine with Sam Steele. I think he's been okay. He has attributes that I like. He can skate. He works hard.
Yeah.
He's got the speed to keep up with those two. And this isn't really a shot at Sam Steele. I just don't think there's anybody that can think the way Kaprizov and Zuccarello do.
Right.
And, there are times where Sam Steele, the puck comes to him and he's not ready for it because he couldn't anticipate that those guys were going to put the puck on his stick in those spots. And man, if there's still a way to find like a third part of that line, that could be super duper dangerous.
Well, you're talking about getting a highly intelligent player. That player doesn't have to be great, right? You don't need a McKinnon with a Kaprizov per se. You'd love it,
Yeah.
but you need someone who is just so smart about the game.
Zuccarello is the good example.
Exactly. Because
Yeah.
look at, hey, let's go back when Zuccarello first signed here, right? Oh, get him out of town. What did you do? What
Worst
are
contract
you
ever.
thinking?
Yeah.
Worst contract ever. All of that. And he didn't have anybody to play with.
Remember the first expansion draft? People were mad that we had to protect him.
Yes.
Yes.
And call it system, call it whatever. He gets with Kaprizov. Everson says, all right, here's a system, but play with it, and look at what they're doing. And I tell you what, this team can ill afford to lose either one of those for a lengthy amount of time. So, if they could find, Hartman's a smart player. Okay. They're not playing together now, and he did fine there. And, whether that gets put back together, who knows what's going to happen. But if they could find that smart player who's got some savvy, who's been in the league a little bit, knows the league, boy, that would be on the wish list. But we'll see.
Well, the wish list before the season was we need some goaltending this year, and I know that was a big storyline with Talbot going to Ottawa. We didn't know much about Gustafsson. Fleury's getting up there in age, and they both got off to bad starts early in the year, and I can't say anything better about the goaltending. Gustafsson is as solid as can be. Pat, just always in control, seems kind of effortless, very efficient on the ice. Fleury, a different type of goalie, but both of them over the last, month and a half, 2 months, they've been spectacular.
Yeah, and I think everyone was hard on the goalies initially for a good reason. I myself was also. But, they gave up 21 goals in the first 4 games or something like that, right?
20 in the first 3.
20 in the first 3.
7-7-6. Yeah.
Yeah. They were defending horribly. They had
were.
no clue what they were doing. And then they at times left their goalies out to dry, hung out to dry.
You're right.
And then, right when you needed a save, one goes in from the red line or a short sider, so it was a combination of things. They tightened up. The goalies got, more focused, and, we see the results, right? So that, me, Brandon, I've said it 1,000 times, goes hand in hand. But they were both bad at the beginning, and now they're both good. The, defensive play and the goaltending, and that's a recipe for winning. Look at their record in December, and a great start in January.
All right, Pat, it's been a while. Can you give me your stick tap for today?
Well, Brandon, who knows what Sammy Walker's career is going to be like, right? Who knows what, whatever young kid. But to get the chance to score a goal in the National Hockey League is there's no other feeling like it. Yeah, we know who's going to score 500, 600 goals. But for that guy that, gets his first goal, and who knows when he's going to score again or get that chance or make it or whatever. So my hat's off to Sammy Walker and all the young kids who scored their first NHL goal.
I like it. My stick tap today goes to a team that I'm not a fan of, but I have to give them props. The Boston Bruins are at a historic pace right now. They are 29-4-4. Their record at home, 19-0-3. They have not lost in regulation at home so far this season. Their points percentage is .838, which is astonishing. That's a good 10% clear of Carolina, who's at like .737, and that's good. Carolina's got a good point percentage. This is in a league that has so much parity and it's difficult to win and bring it every single night. The Boston Bruins just keep doing it, and they are having an astonishing season thus far.
If I can add on to that, Jim Montgomery, who they hired from the St. Louis Blues, who had issues in the past, won a national championship at Denver, is one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League. I remember, Brandon, a year ago, the radio play-by-play guy for the St. Louis Blues told me Minnesota will have struggles on the power play because Montgomery put something in and to shut them down. And this was before the series started. It was a key in the series, and all because of Jim Montgomery. So,
wow.
Yeah, good call. Good stick to.
All right, Pat. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you hopefully next week right here on Beyond the Pod.
Have a great week.
All right. He's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. As always, you can watch Beyond the Pod on the KFAN YouTube channel. And of course, you can listen to it on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for listening or watching this week. We'll talk to you next week on Beyond the Pod. Bye.